Alright guys, today I have a 2020 GMC Yukon Denali. I wanted to make this video because this is a very common issue on the 2014 and newer GM trucks with the Magna suspension. The shocks blow out all the time on these things. So let me get it in the air. Alright, so this is on the front passenger side. So you can look at that shock and see why you would want to replace it. It's all blown out, leaking fluid out of it. And then if we come over to the driver's side, it's same situation over here on the driver's side. It's blown out and leaking. Ride's a little bit rough and the tires are starting to get chopped up a bit. So if you're thinking about doing this job yourself at home or whatever, the first thing we need to talk about is cost. And this thing was like 857 bucks. Really expensive. You see there's no spring or mount or anything. It comes just like this. There is on the top. There's actually a wire coming out of it. Two little pins. So basically what they want you to do is they want you to pull the pins out of the old connector and reuse the connector, which a lot of times that doesn't work out. So they sell you also a connector and wire kit, because most of the time when you go to pull these pins out of the old connector to reuse the connector breaks. The reason it's so expensive is because basically what you have in here is, depending on how stiff or how soft, you know, the suspension needs to be at any given moment, it actually will send a current through these wires and it changes the magnetic field inside here, and it can soften or dampen the ride. So it's pretty crazy stuff. Too bad they leak all the time on these. All right, so let's just jump right in it. I'm on the passenger side of the vehicle, so the first thing we're gonna wanna do is take the wheel off. So I'm gonna use a 22 millimeter socket and get all these lug nuts off. All right, so with the wheel removed, you can really get a better view of the strut right here. Basically what we have is a couple of, right here on the bottom, on the control arm, there's a couple of bolts here, and then up here on the top there's 3 nuts that hold the strut to the actual frame of the truck. This one, as you can see, this is a 4-wheel drive, so we got an axle here, but it really doesn't interfere too much with taking it off, so it's not really going to matter. But let me actually get the truck down and I'm going to show you guys something from up on the top. So up on the top, passenger side, notice how if we look down here, you can see down there where the shock is and the nuts and stuff and the connector and all that, but it's kind of way down there underneath a bunch of hoses, heater hoses and AC lines and stuff like that. It's kind of tricky to get to. You can get to all that from the top, but you kind of got to fight it a little bit, and there's a lot of stuff in the way. Just with some basic hand tools and a socket set, it would be pretty difficult to get down there. You can see on the driver's side there's a lot more room over here because you don't have all that stuff in the way, so you can really get down to it quite a lot easier. So I'm actually doing the more difficult side for a reason on camera, so I can show you. But what I'm going to do is, instead of you know, with some extensions and stuff and swivels, I mean, you can take these nuts off from the top, but I'm actually going to take a little bit of a different approach. But what I'm actually going to do here to show you guys, I'm going to take off the fender liner, and with the fender liner off you get a lot more space and you can get in there a lot easier. And removing the fender liner is actually really easy. You just kind of go around and see there's some bolts here, and they are, I think, 7 millimeter. Yeah, I've verified they are 7 millimeter bolts. And so you basically kind of go up all along where you see them. This is actually a Torx. Pretty small, looks like a T10 or T15, but either way, take all these off and you can drop the fender liner. And then up underneath, you just have a couple of 10 millimeter bolts, this little push pin tab, and then back over here, there's really nothing here other than some Torx. Let me see what size those are. So these are a T15 Torx socket to take out these. So you just need a 7 millimeter, a T15, and then a 10 millimeter for these. I think I do. fender liner's out. There's those Torx bolts. There was like 3 of them in the middle on this one. There was a bunch of them around the edge. Anyway, as you can see with that out of the way, you do have way more room to work. So if you just take a couple minutes to take the fender liner off, it could really help you out. All right, so what I'm basically gonna do now is I'm gonna disconnect where the wiring harness connects. So get that off of all of them. So okay, so I got the harness off, and now the connector that comes out the top, follow the wire down. So here's the connector where it plugs in. So for now, what we want to do is just unplug this connector from here. So slide, see that gray tab, you slide it back, pinch on it, and then it should pull out. And then I'm gonna have to take this off of this. Anyway, just use your hands to pull this apart. So then you have this connector just dangling there. So just leave it like that for now. And the next thing that you're gonna wanna do, you can go ahead and loosen these nuts. I'm gonna use this ratcheting box wrench, and then I'm gonna loosen these. So now what we're gonna do is come underneath, and then we're gonna take off the 2 15mm bolts that hold the shock to the control arm. So now basically what you wanna do to get the shock out of the way, you can take a long pry bar like this. This is a 36-inch pry bar. You can stick it right here where the control arm meets with the frame. You can pry down. When you pry down, you don't want the shock or the strut, you don't want it pressing up against the frame, then you won't be able to take it out. So when you pry down on the control arm, it gives you some slack. And then you can reach around, do it from the right side, pry down on it, and then you can basically slide this forward, and then the whole thing will come down. And then just watch your wire. Make sure the wire doesn't get caught up on anything, and then you can just pull it straight down out of the bottom. Well, what do you think? That wasn't too bad, huh? All right, so I'm gonna cut the zip tie right here. And then pry this boot out of the way. Pry that protective boot. Pop that off. The reason you gotta pull the pins out of this connector is that if you don't, then you won't be able to, you'll be able to loosen this nut, but you won't be able to slide it off of the wire because it'll get caught up right here. What they want you to do is open up this connector and pull the pins out of it, which I'm going to attempt to do that without breaking it. We'll see how that goes. All right, so what I realized after a while was that this connector that we ordered, this connector is for the wiring harness side of the car. This is for the harness of the car. This is not the right connector. I thought what we were ordering was this deal right here. I've been trying to get these pins out, but I don't want to do any damage to this connector, and the customer needs this car today. What I was trying to do was get this connector right here from the dealer. That way, you see on the new shock, it's just got the pin sticking out. And then if you order this connector as well, it's not going to have any wires or anything in it. And then what you do is when you transfer the spring and the mount and all that stuff, you just take the new connector, slip the pins through it, and they'll lock into place, and then you're good and you don't have to worry about all this. Because I don't have this piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reuse the old one, but instead of trying to pull the wires out with the pins and do damage to the connector, I've just cut the wires. And then what I'm going to do is once I get it on the spring, I'm going to cut these pins off and just solder the wires together. Basically solder the old connector onto the new strut, if that makes sense. Okay, I'm recording.
Alright.
Sonny told me if I soldered the wires on the strut that he's doing, then he'll help me put my struts together. So that's how we do things around here at Katie Auto Care. So let's see how the master does it.
Alright, rule number 1. This one's facing you, facing towards the tire. You always mark it first. Align it with that part right here. This and this. Okay? Oh, rule number 1 again, safety glasses.
Yes. And we're using a strut spring compressor.
Alright, gonna have high and low. Put a nut down there to create your space. It's gonna even it flat. It's gonna flatten out this spacer. Otherwise, your strut's gonna be sideways. So bring it down, just enough. Take this off. Cut this. Save this. Loop this.
Yes, yes.
Before you loosen up the nut, always tighten it up first. It breaks it loose.
Okay.
Now you can loosen it.
Okay.
After that, take this off, put it to the side. Pull your strut out. Down the ground. Take a little hammer, tap this baby right here. Just tap it. And it breaks loose. There's 2 sizes to it. Okay, make sure you don't put it upside down. Pull this out. Don't forget your plastic seat. If you don't, it's gonna come back creaking.
If you guys don't have a spring compressor, you can rent one from O'Reilly, a little handheld one.
Yep, but be real careful with that one. Always clean this off. That way the customer don't look at it and thinks that it's still leaking.
Yeah.
Clean it off. Where's the new strut at?
Oh, I gotta go get it.
All right, make a little hook. Go down a little bit, senor. Okay, you're gonna go up at the same time with your partner. That way it don't come loose. Come on, senor. There you go, look at that. You got it?
Got it.
Speed wrench. Turn to this side, Jack.
Over there?
Yep. Remember the mark I was telling you facing towards you? That's the mark. You want to line that straight up. So when you put it on the vehicle, this is stationary. You can't move it.
Yeah.
Follow your marks.
So in the beginning of this part, I think I forgot to hit record. So how do you put it together? You put the plastic spacer first, and then you put the jounce bumper, and then that little metal washer.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So that's it, man. All you gotta do is solder all these, and we can get all.
Solder the wires. All right,
this
man.
Is the tool.
A little coat hanger.
I'm gonna keep this.
Fish the wire through.
Yep.
There you go.
Keep that straight down. Don't bend it.
Yeah, man.
Works
all
every
right.
time.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're ready to reassemble the strut, and as you can see, I had to solder the wires because I didn't get the right connector for it. But if you guys can get this connector, you won't have to worry about doing all that. But either way, and then there's a way to kind of zip tie it to itself back how it was over here. So I'm gonna do that once I get it back in the vehicle. And then angle it toward the back of the car so that you can clear the axle. And then back the other way. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, you got to play with it a little bit to get it to go through, but now up in the top here, gotta line up the bolt holes. I can stick it through. I'm gonna stick a nut up here just to hold it in place so it doesn't fall down. Take my big 36-inch pry bar, stick it down here, and then while I pry it down, I can slide the strut in place. Just like that. Got the bolts here, see if I can come underneath. Tighten up these 15mm bolts. All right, now I just gotta get these 3 18mm nuts tightened up. We're gonna get this connector plugged back into this wire. So I'm gonna go around here, try to get it pretty close to how it was originally. Okay. Now this was over here, like that. And then all these wires, try to get that back on there. I'll go ahead and put this zip tie back how it was. All right, so that's it for this one, guys. We're done here. I got both sides done. I'm just gonna show the one side because the both sides are identical. Anyway, all that's left to do now, I'm gonna check the alignment on it and then we're good to go.